To successfully comprehend the messages of the book of Revelation requires some background knowledge of the Old Testament, the biblical events, the prophetic symbols, and its lesson parallelism. Why God uses symbols, prophetic symbols, and we become confused. But perhaps John wasn't confused. It is important to realize that the book of Revelation is very different from the other books that we have studied, because the book of Revelation is a picture book. And sometimes the words in the book can be either literal or symbolic. Symbolic means it represents something. So not everything is literal. Not everything is symbolic. Example, last week we read or we saw the lamb in front of the throne. Is it symbolic or is it literal? Only the context can help us to determine whether or not it's literal or symbolic. Most of the time, God seems to tell John and us more things than we can understand or comprehend. He's talking on his perspective, remember. So most of the book can be understood. But what we cannot understand, the word I have for you is chill. Be chill about it. Is that okay? Rather than trying to force me to I may not have all the answers or try to force answers out of the Bible. Some of us or some of you have gone into YouTube to learn about interpretation of prophecies. So it's okay to do that, but you can also come out confused because different preachers seem to say different things. Let me now go through 4 basic interpretive approaches that preachers and prophetic interpreters use, especially for the book of Revelation. The first one is futurist. It's not, the first one means chronologically, I'm just naming them. Futurist. The school holds that everything after chapter 4, after the throne room, is yet to happen in the future. Under this view, the book of Revelation is mostly a book of future prophecy that has yet to be fulfilled. While many of the images of Antichrist can be seen throughout history, even through Paul's time, John's time, they mention it, there is still a future Antichrist that will come at the end of human history. So the futurist school is not new. It's held by our early church fathers. The next one is as what Uncle Tew has said, historicist. Historicist school holds that the book of Revelation predicts the future. And it's not some future tribulation. Whatever we see traces back sometime in history, starting from John's time. These scholars will actually go back into history and find events to fit into prophetic symbols. This view started with Martin Luther and the Reformers, who believed, and most of the Protestant movement at that time, who believed that the Antichrist was the Roman papacy, because that was the environment at that point in time. Why? The Roman papacy means that the church at that point in time, with the Pope as its head, was at its height of error, apostasy, and corruption. You can go back to history and read it, the Dark Ages, how they persecuted the Protestants. Then we have the preterists. The preterists are the ones that hold that the events of Revelation have been past. It happened in the first century, the first few centuries, if not, and the name itself, because in English, preterist means what? Past tense. Everything has happened in the past, except for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Then we have another one, which is the idealist or the symbolic view. Now, the idealist or the symbolic view school holds that the book of Revelation should be just taken as a symbolic explanation of the battle between good and evil, between God and Satan. The events are not going to happen. These are basically just symbols to help us to understand that we are on the winning side. So, as you listen to the preacher in YouTube, and as you try to determine which school or he or she is in, or maybe your own church, as you try to figure out your own church, what is the stand of the church? Because we are discovery class, we may look into one or two of the approaches, but we are going to use the biblical approach more than ever. So if you're a staunch historicist or futurist and you're in this class, I hope that you will understand that this is a method we will use in discovery class. I'm not saying who is right, who is wrong. This is a method we will use in discovery class. Intertextuality and interconnectivity. Rose will be able to tell you what. What does these two words mean? Connecting the dots and aligning the events and symbols from Bible, especially Old Testament, to complete the picture. And if we are not able to, what is the word? Chill. As I mentioned last week, if we enter this journey with fresh new glasses, our journey will take on a new perspective and meaning. So are we ready? Chapter 6. Turn to chapter 6 of the book of Revelation, whether it's in your e-Bible or your actual Bible, because you need to read it for yourself. Then I saw when the Lamb broke one of the 7 seals. I looked and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him. And he went out conquering and to conquer. Think about it. White horse, what does it mean? Right, carrying a bow, conquering, what does it mean? Think about it. Write it down for yourself. Another red horse went out to him. Right, so another one, a red horse went out to him who sat on it. It was granted to take peace from the earth, and that men would slay one another. And a great sword was given to him. So when you read this verse, it says, granted to take peace from the earth, this particular horseman. So when you take peace from the earth, what happens? Give me one word to describe when you take peace from the earth. Come on, type in the chat. I need some response. When you take peace from the earth, what happens?
War. War.
Yes, thank you very much, Uncle Theo. War, yes, war. So a man would slay one another, and a great sword was given to them. So remember the word war. Then after that, after the white, the red, the black horse comes. When he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, come. Remember the 4 living creatures? Come. And I saw and behold. John saw and he beheld a black horse, and a rider had a balance in his hand. I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of 4 living creatures. So it has a lot to do with the 4 living creatures telling John, a quart of wheat for a denarius, 3 quarts of barley for a denarius. But do not harm the oil and the wine. What does it mean? A quart, I looked it up, a quart is about a liter of wheat. Those days they take wheat and barley is the cheaper form. A denarius is about 1 day's wage. 1 day's wage means that you work 1 day. Example, today, if you work 1 day, you may earn let's say 300 ringgit. It can only buy you a packet of barley or wheat. What does that mean? It means that this guy is supposed to bring in inflation, economic hardship, and perhaps famine. Then I looked, and an ashen horse, a gray colored horse. And the one who sat on it had the name Death and Hades. This one is very clear, Death and Hades, and was falling with him. And then authority was given to them, all 4, them, over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, with famine, with pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Remember this 1/4, 1/4, because the figures will come later. The figures will escalate as we go along. So this last phrase seems to denote the functions of the 4 horses, the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and the gray horse or the ashen horse. Is there somewhere, anywhere in the Old Testament that mentions horses and horsemen similar to Revelation chapter 6? Zechariah chapter 1, where in verse 8, where Zechariah is shown red, speckled, and white horses. And Zechariah was told what the horsemen were. See, a lot of times in the Bible, symbols are interpreted. The angel told Daniel what it meant, right? Zechariah was told by the angel as well what it meant. And very clearly it says this, and the man who was standing among the myrtle tree answered and said, these are those whom the Lord has sent to patrol the earth. So they can be angels in the form of horsemen, symbolic, because those days, a lot of times in the Roman Empire, they use horses. And so they answered the angel of the Lord and said, we have patrolled the earth, and behold, all the earth is peaceful and quiet. So at that point in time, now Zechariah is post-exile, right? Zechariah is post-exile after they came out of Babylon. So they are patrollers of the earth. But in Revelation, they are patrollers of judgment. So white horse, may be peace. Some interpretations say white horse is Jesus. Some interpretations say white horse is the Antichrist. There's many interpretations out there. The red horse, just now you mentioned the word war. The black horse, economic suffering and famine. The ashen horse, pestilence and death. Okay, famine, pestilence, war, and death. Where else in the Bible have we come across these words? War, famine, pestilence. Familiar chapter in the New Testament. There's a clue. Matthew 24. Thank you so much, Angela. Matthew 24. Pastor has always taught us about it, how to interpret that. So here it seems to align with the prophecy that Jesus himself shared with his disciples, that there's going to be war, famine, pestilence. And here the announcement for the four horsemen is, it's coming. Get ready. So the four horsemen seem to be announcing the birth pangs before the time of the end. Now, for those of you or those of us who are historicists as well, the historicist view is that the four horses represent the different eras of Christian history. Just like the seven churches, historicists view that the seven churches represent the seven eras. So John is shown a very sad scene. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the war of God and for the witness they had borne. They cried out to the Lord, when are you going to avenge our blood? So now John is shown a different scene, and this one comes back to them. And this is a scene that John would be familiar with: persecution, martyrdom, death of the saints, because his contemporaries had all died in the hands of the Romans. Yet each of them were given a white robe. You read it. It's very encouraging. Each of them were given a white robe. And they were asking the Lord, when, how long more? And the Lord told them, rest a little longer until the number is perfect, right? Until there are more people coming out of it. So there you go. These are the ones that have been faithful. They are given white robes. You will notice that white robes is always mentioned in the book of Revelation as well. Okay, let's continue. Then we see a sixth seal. As the Lamb opens up the sixth seal, what happens? There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black, the moon turned red. It's never seen before. The sun turning black, like sackcloth made from goat's hair. And the whole moon turned blood red. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth as the fig tree drops its late figs. Then the sky recedes as a scroll when it's rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. Wow, what a scene. And what scene is that? You have been taught already. What scene is that? When they say all these things. Is it really literal when they say that the sun is going to turn black, the moon is going to turn red, the stars are going to fall down, and the skies are going to roll up, and every island and mountain moved? What does it mean? It indicates clearly the end already, the judgment day. Now, judgment day does not happen one day. Judgment day means, yes, it's starting now. It may happen in a period of time. So at the end is here. The end is here. And what happens? Then the kings of the earth and the great men and the commanders and the rich and the strong and every slave, every free man hid themselves in the cave rocks. And they say, let the mountains and the rocks fall on us, hide us from the presence of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the day of his wrath had come. So all the signs that you see in the stars and the sun and the moon is just to tell, saying that day of the wrath is come. It's not happened 1800, 1700. Now you notice that the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich and strong, every slave, free man, who are they? They seem to be non-believers, isn't it? They seem to be those who refuse to accept and acknowledge God and Jesus. They seem to be the ones that know about the Lamb, know about Jesus, but perhaps not willing to accept him. Judgment will fall on them. And they knew it. That's why they ask for the rocks and the mountains to fall on them, because that will be easier than the wrath of the Lamb. So how about the believers? How about the faithful Christians? Will Judgment Day fall on them too? Did Jesus give the warning already in the letter to the 7 churches? That all the 7 churches, the characteristics could be characteristics in our churches today and not just the Laodicean church? Please turn to chapter 7. After this, chapter 7 is also another interesting chapter. After this, I saw 4 angels standing in the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor any tree, saying, do not harm the earth, the sea, the tree, until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. Then, well, this is the interesting one. I don't have it verse here. The interesting one is that John heard the number 144,000 from 12 tribes of Israel. 144,000. Interesting number. You'll be asking me now, what is the 144,000, literal or symbolic? Go back and read it for yourself. Then, this is more important. He saw an enormous crowd, countless numbers, a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, language, wearing long white robes. The 144,000 was mentioned under the Israel tribes, right? 12 tribes of them. Then John saw this multitude of different types of people, black, yellow, white, red, different nation, tribe, and people language. Yeah. Thank God for that. We are part of that. Wearing long white robes. These are the ones that have come out of great tribulation, washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. That is why they stand before God's throne. Serve him day and night. He who sits on the throne will protect them with his presence. Never again will they hunger or thirst. Neither sun nor any scorching heat will burn them. For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd. He will lead them to springs of living water and will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Wow, a roller coaster 2 chapters, from proclamation of calamity to persecution to martyrdom to final judgment, but yet a seal of protection for faithful followers and a promise of sustenance and comfort. It all depends on which side you're on. You decide. Because there's one more seal to open. And with that last seal open, there is no turning back.